Hi, it's your old friend Bill Cherry from Galveston. But unfortunately, right now, and has been for quite a number of years now, feeling I'm 18, 19, 20 years, whatever. Well, I've lived in Dallas because my wife Patty was from Dallas and she wanted to move where her grandchildren were after we married. And I never pictured it as being a move thing. I pictured we'd have a house here and a house in Galveston, and not she could do whatever she wanted to do that way. But as things usually I picture normally are almost not able to happen, and it'll be some reason, some reason doesn't make any sense. It wasn't you never would have thought of it, but you can't do it. So here we are, and I've got on my Tulane sweatshirt. It's cold as the devil outside. It's been cold for about 5 days now, although the sun is out today. And I'm sitting by the fireplace, and I thought about my sweatshirt, and I thought about this ridiculous mustache that Patty thought I ought to grow. And so I thought I would tell you a story. Before hippies, there were Beatniks. Maynard G. Krebs was a Beatnik. That was one of the original television shows that was kind of a comedy, and uh, anyway, that goes back then. So when Sonny Mares, who was my roommate, and I went off to Tulane, we had both been brought up in Galveston, and we went off to Tulane and decided we'd room together, and there were about five of us going there at that time. Um, I decided I was going to grow a beard, I was going to smoke a pipe, and uh, and I was going to wear clam digger pants, which are these white duck things that don't go long enough, and you wore what we call Jesus sandals. I don't know, that's probably uh, not a good thing to call them, but nevertheless, they were just regular leather sandals. And we had noticed that down at St. Louis Cathedral, the park that St. Louis Cathedral is on, there were millions and millions, probably not anywhere near that many, but I like to exaggerate, so just go with me on that. There were a lot of artists, and they rented a little space from the city, and it was a licensing thing, and they'd have their stuff set up down there. People went down and they would buy something, and normally it was some um, landscaping of a building in the French Quarter, or the other side would be this person was kind of a portrait artist, and he would draw your picture and color it in or whatever, your kid's picture, and it would end up on somebody's wall wherever, and nobody could remember who it was because it didn't look like him to begin with. But nevertheless, so Sonny said, can you draw? I said, oh Lord, no, I can't draw. I can't draw anything. And he said, well, I can. He said, I have an idea. What if we got one of those large drawing tablets, that's got the funny kind of paper on them, whatever paper that is. And I would sit down and draw the St. Louis Cathedral in charcoal on every other page in this tablet. And you sit down there and you have a bunch of charcoal pencils with you and everything, and you sit there and you make believe that you are drawing the St. Louis Cathedral, and it's almost finished. And people will come by to look and see what you're doing, and you can say, I, I think I want to sell this painting, this drawing today. Uh, you can say that you have a real uh, work of art by a Beatnik. A Beatnik? Oh boy, yeah, that's right. That's what I want to do. Yeah, I'll give you. What do you want for it? Oh, I probably want $50 for it. And I'd say, sure, we got that. And I'd do the thing, and they'd tear it off, hand it to them. They go down the street, and of course, the next piece of paper under that was a blank sheet of paper. So after they got around the corner, you pull the thing up, turn it over, and there was the next drawing that Sonny had done of the St. Louis Cathedral, and you go back to the same thing. It's a total ruse, I understand. But, you know, it's just the way it is. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I used to sell anything I could imagine as a kid. I'm telling you, I love selling stuff. And people bought from me in the neighborhood, you know, and they liked me and so forth. And so I finally had learned sort of a sales pitch, and all I had to do was substitute the product in for the rest of the stuff that I had already learned. Anyway, back to the story. So I was there one day, and a guy came by, and he saw me, and he said, I think you should be a model. And I said, what? I can't be a model. You have tall guys, and I'm not a tall guy. I'm not even come close to being a tall guy. You said, well, wait a minute, let me stand up. Let me show you. You stand up. And he said, no, it's no big deal. There was a cigarette at that time that was imported from Europe, and it was called Demarier, and it came in little boxes that later on Benson and Hedges started using. You pull the lip back, you know, when you pull out one, it was real suave. And so they were going to do a portrait of a guy as if he were the captain of a sailboat. And he's standing up on the mast, by the mast, and he's holding on to it, and he's smoking a Demarier cigarette, and he's got this beard, and he's got the Beatnik stuff on. You with me on this? This is getting ready to get really cool. So I said, well, how are you going to make this work? He said, no big deal to it. All we have to do is we set the camera down low, and we shoot up at you. And then we can make that look like whatever height we want it to look like. No kidding, I said. He said, yeah. So he said, tell you what, you want to do this, I'll pay you $500. Meet me down at Lake Pontchartrain tomorrow or whenever it was, you know, a day or two, on the weekend, I guess it was. And we'll do it. And I'll pay you in cash before you even start so you know you got your money. So I went down there, and sure enough, that guy was there, and he had those funny shade things with the light things in them and all that kind of junk all there. And he rented this boat, and I get up there, and I'm standing there holding the deal, you know. And he took the picture, and it actually ended up in a magazine. Now, don't ask me which magazine. I can't remember any of this. But it's in one somewhere, and the magazine was probably a bigger figure than the cigarette was, you know. But in any case, after that was over with, I don't know, a month or so later, all of a sudden I got this horrible itch. It was everywhere, and I would scratch, and my skin was bleeding. It was just horrible. And I finally went to the doctor at the school, and I said, you know, what's going on here? And he said, oh my Lord, I've never seen anything that bad. He said, you're going to go to the hospital, and they're going to have to put you under and take this thing off with scissors or something until they can get it down, and then you're going to look terrible for days and days and days, and it'll finally work its way out, and then you have to go to the doctor a lot and whatever. And so that's what we did. But I never, ever forgot that experience. And I thought about growing a mustache and a beard several times over the years, and but then I remembered that even though it made me look tall, I had a horrible had a horrible thing as a beatnik. So I started dressing preppy. I sure did. It was a place called the Top Drawer, and it was over on St. Charles Street. And I would go over there and buy Beatnik 500 suits, and Cricket was another one. And we dressed in those days when we went to class. And that was a great time. Anyway, I'm sorry I wasted your time, but it's a piece of history, you know, and I get a kick out of telling it because I get to hear it myself. I'm Bill Cherry. So glad I got to talk to you, and thank you for staying. Those of you who did, those of you who turned it off, I don't know the difference. Okay. Bye bye.